Registration is now open for the second annual AI in Education Summit, taking place in Dubai on April 23rd and 24th at the Millennium Lakeview Hotel in DIP1. Register now at www.aiineducationsummit.com.
You are listening to the Teach Middle East podcast, connecting, developing, and empowering educators.
Hey everyone, Lisa Grace welcoming you back to another episode of the Teach Middle East podcast. Today we are doing a Behind the Principal's Desk episode, if you like, with the Deputy Superintendent of the Dubai American Academy, Mike Gilmour. And Mike just made me aware of the fact that that international accent that you hear is actually South African with a mix of, all the places that he's lived. So we're going to dive in and learn a little bit more about who Mike is, what makes him tick, how he manages to run or help to run such a massive organization. Dubai American Academy has a fantastic reputation in the space, and we want to learn all about it. Hello, Mike.
Hi, Lisa. Thanks so much for having me on the podcast. It's good to be with you, and hi to all the listeners out there.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. South Africa. Where? How? When? Why?
Well, Cape Town, South Africa is my home. It's where I grew up, spent most of my life, and obviously early part of my career. It's a place we love. To this day, we absolutely love it. In fact, we love the continent of Africa, and we love traveling around there. But grew up in Cape Town, South Africa, and then had the privilege of moving overseas and working internationally in Asia, and then moved to the Middle East a couple of years back, where I find myself now. But family remain in South Africa, at least most of them, and we do our best to try to get back there and stay connected as much as we can.
If the people know anything, they know I love Cape Town. I've been there several times.
Oh, really? Brilliant.
Yes, I have gone all around that place. I absolutely love it. We stayed on Camps Bay, House Bay, Sea Point, Fish Hook, like you name it, your girl's been there. Yeah. I absolutely love that place. I've always said to myself, when I make money, which I don't know when, but whenever, I want to have a villa on Camps Bay. Like I really do. That is my dream. I should put that on a vision board. Tell me, how was life growing up in South Africa?
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, I mean, all the places you mentioned are just absolutely spectacular. So, look, growing up in South Africa was, like any childhood, it was, I thought was very good. Only in later years did I realize that the system I was growing up in was incredibly abnormal in that most of my whole primary school career, till 92, I was living under apartheid regime. And so, growing up, I just thought everything was normal, although we realized later how abnormal life actually was there for someone growing up in the suburbs where I grew up. So, look, we had a wonderful life growing up, but you were always aware that there was something very sinister and different at play when you even just looked up at the makeup of the school that I went to, where everyone looked like me. Right, until such time as things started to change, and thank God that they did change, right, and we celebrate that change. But look, growing up in South Africa, I was very fortunate to go to some wonderful schools and experience wonderful things. In fact, one of the highlights in my journey in education, but just in life, was when I went to university, and the university that I went to was under the apartheid law was a former black university, and so actually I was the one that stood out within that community, and I got to experience firsthand what that felt like. But man, what a wonderful experience, and friends to this day who I have from that university. Had the privilege to represent that university, play sport for the university, and just make some lifelong friends there. But that for me, a real passion of mine, as I'm sure we'll get to speak about, is seeing how we can get people to work together around a common goal or common objective. And it always bothered me growing up that we were so segregated based on race, ideology. And so when I had the opportunity to go to the university that I did, I felt like I got a PhD in life and what it truly means to work together and be aligned, that I just would never be able to get anywhere else. So I'm grateful for that experience as well as all the other experiences that I had growing up. And I find myself here in the Middle East today, a boy from Cape Town, but in a very fortunate position and grateful for all the opportunities.
Yeah. And so education for you, so you did sports, but how did you end up in this field? Like, how did you end up in education?
Yeah, so it was an interesting journey because although I did a qualification or a degree, a bachelor's degree in physical education, I never went straight into that. I worked in the non-profit world in South Africa, in sports non-profit actually, for many years. And then it was only when the global recession or financial crisis happened in about 08, 09, the organization I was working with essentially closed in South Africa, and I was forced to fall back on my education, and so then I got a position as a PE teacher and athletic director in a school, and that really got me on the path towards education. Now I'd always liked education, but I didn't think I'd go into a career in education and become a teacher, or definitely not a principal. And so I feel like that was a real course correction for me. And since then, we've just been so fortunate with the opportunities that we've had as a family to be able to travel internationally, work in schools internationally, and just grow and develop. And it really is a passion of mine, education, leadership as well.
And so your career has taken you across different continents. What made you want to leave South Africa and try to teach overseas in the first place?
Well, I think we'd always heard about the opportunities that are there internationally. And I think my wife and I, we were in a stage in our lives where we were ready or looking for just a bit of an adventure. She's a teacher as well. And so our approach was maybe not a conventional one in that we wanted to teach, and we thought about Asia as well, just hearing about some of the lifestyle opportunities there and the experiences one could have. So we just sent out CVs to just about every school in every country, from China through to Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia. I mean, you name it. We weren't quite specific. We just knew we wanted this experience, and we'd heard from a few people who'd done something similar. And then we got a response back. In fact, my wife got a response back from a school in Singapore. And she's actually a speech therapist. And so we initially, she got the job and I didn't have the position. So we went over based on her contract. And then when I was there, I was very fortunate to connect with a few schools and get a great position as a PE teacher. And so Singapore was home for us for 11 years, and we loved it. We still do love it. It's a beautiful city and a wonderful place, incredible people. And so I was a PE teacher for 3 years there, and then made the move from one school to another school, where I was a grade 3 classroom teacher. And then had the opportunity to move into administration as an assistant principal. It was great. And then I don't think we were looking to leave Singapore. I mean, we were very happy there. But I had a tremendous opportunity come about here in Dubai. And it really was just too good to turn down. Dubai American Academy to come and be the elementary principal here. And, of course, went through a rigorous interview process, but it just felt so right. And so I'm glad we did that. And we've been here for 4 years now. And after 2 years as elementary principal, I had the opportunity to move to the deputy superintendent position, which I'm in now. And so, I've been so fortunate with the opportunities I've been given to be able to move into different leadership roles, continue to grow and learn and learn every day. Trust me, I learn every day. But yeah, so that was my journey. But we love the Middle East and we love being here in Dubai. There's so many incredible opportunities here, particularly in education. You know, I find it's such a fast-paced, ambitious society, and within education specifically, there are incredible opportunities here. But equally, we love Asia and Southeast Asia in particular. And who knows, maybe one day we'll return there or back to South Africa. That's a question we always ask ourselves, right?
Yeah, but Dubai has a way of holding you. And so you end up thinking, oh, but I'll miss this and I'll miss that. But Singapore, what do you miss about Singapore?
Yeah, you're right. Dubai has that. I think, you know, Dubai and Singapore are so similar in that they are exceptionally forward-thinking nations that prioritize education. You know, it's safe, it's clean, everything works. You know, it's easy to live in these cities, right? It really is. What I miss about Singapore for sure is the greenery and the thunderstorms. And although, you know, there aren't really seasons within Singapore, it tends to be fairly hot and humid the whole year. There are thunderstorms and there's greenery and there's an element of a rainforest there, which is very appealing and enjoyable. I do miss that. Although I have come to learn and enjoy some of the nature elements here in Dubai, particularly out towards the mountains and Fujairah side or up towards Ras Al Khaimah. So there is absolute beauty in nature. It's just different. But yeah, look, I wouldn't say, yeah, what else was I thinking about? I think generally that the culture that you find within Asia is very unique. There's something very special about that. It's a highly respectful culture, and I think the way they hold their educators and the way they hold education is incredible high regard. And so, you know, working within that context was really a blessing. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you were to, no, that's not fair, Lisa. I was gonna say if you were to pick a winner, but I'm like, no, that's not fair. That is not a fair question.
You wouldn't be the first person to ask me that. You wouldn't be the first person to ask me. And my answer is probably like the Switzerland answer, where I sit on the fence, because I do think there's pros and cons in both, right? And there's some things that are better in Singapore, other things that are better in Dubai. I mean, I just feel privileged to be able to sit in between both of those, right? So
yeah. It's not a fair question. As soon as it pops into my head, I go, no, do not ask that. That is not a fair question. But DAA, 4 years there, 2 years as elementary principal, now as the deputy superintendent. Tell me about DAA. What makes it special? What makes it tick?
Well, it's a wonderful school. Look, we're a large school, just over 3,700 students, K-12, about 500 faculty and staff. Obviously a GEMS education flagship school. So look, there's many great attributes of our school. To be fair, if you ask any school leader, or I'd say most school leaders, what's the best thing about this school, I would hope they'd say the people inside of it. And so that will be my answer as well. It really is the people inside. It's the students, it's our faculty and staff, and it's our families. We're not a perfect school by any means. You know, we do our very best. I think we have very high standards and expectations, and I think generally we do things very well. But there are things we learn and there are things we get wrong, and I think we are humble enough to admit that and then make those changes when we need to. So that's what I really enjoy about this place. Getting to interact with our students and our families and our staff every day. That makes me come alive. As a superintendent, I want to connect with people. That fills my bucket. And so just having that opportunity, regardless of what classroom it is, but being able to get into the classrooms, connect, see the learning that's happening, and more importantly, see the impact we're having on kids, on our families. You know, that's why we go into this profession. And so, yeah, I'd say it's definitely the people, but we are very fortunate with the facility we have, with the resources we have. So we're in a great place. Yeah.
So I'm gonna pretend like I'm interviewing you now for a job that I do not have. I have no superintendent jobs to offer you. However, as a leader, what are your strengths?
Well, you'd probably have to ask the people who work with me to get an honest assessment. But what I believe my strengths are, it's definitely my ability to connect with people, I believe it's my strength, but I know it's also my passion. And that is to develop organizational culture, a culture that is positive, that is student focused and student centered. And really a culture that is drawing people in to be part of something bigger than them, right? In the world today, we are so often forced to work within silos, and we have to be intentional, even more so every day now, to collaborate and be intentional to connect. And I think that's something that I really enjoy doing. And so to be able to be intentional, to focus on how do we build a great culture that people want to be a part of. And kind of like a flywheel, right? Get that momentum going. That's something that I believe is a strength of mine. I would hope that I communicate very well, and I think that's a critical skill as a leader. Two things really, I think, are the absolute foundations for leadership. That is your ability to communicate and your level of organization. If you can be highly organized and communicate really well, that's a large part of the job, right, that you're required to do. But look, I come alive when I'm around people, students, teachers, families. That's when I'm in my wheelhouse, and so I enjoy that, and I definitely think I bring that to the team here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what are your weaknesses? But I'm like, don't be naughty, Lisa.
Yeah,
No,
wasn't a long time for that.
No, but on a real though, you talked about developing culture, which is so important when you talk about schools, because schools are about people. How are you doing that? Give my listeners some tips and tidbits, because I think that everybody wants to live and thrive in a culture that supports them.
Yeah. It's, I actually wrote a book about it, right? It's, I wrote a book called The Power of Rapport, and it's really a passion project of mine, to be quite honest. But it speaks about the role rapport has in every area of life. And so it's not actually only for educators. I wrote the book intentionally for every sector of society, because in my view, those people who have the ability to connect with other people are way more successful in life than those that aren't. And I'm not just meaning financial success. I mean, it's just success in achieving anything. So within this book, I actually speak about what can you do to develop a rapport or connection with someone, or ultimately organizational culture. And it's actually written as a kind of a practical guide. So it speaks about how we communicate, looking at things like our nonverbal communication. How are we carrying ourselves? What is our face saying when we're in a conversation, right? Speaks about intentionality. What are we doing to be intentional to build this culture? Because every organization has a culture, but unless we're intentional to build it, it'll build itself, right? And it might build in the wrong direction that you want. So for me, it comes down to the small things. Organizational culture is defined by daily interactions. So let's have a look at how our people are interacting with each other every day. We know through Brene Brown and many other authors and people way more qualified than me that humans are wired for connection. We've heard that many times. So my job as an organizational leader is not to force people to connect. All I need to do is create the platform for them to connect. And people will naturally connect with each other and build those connections. But I have to make sure they have the time and the opportunity to do that. So I think it's about looking at something even as practical as how we meet together as a school. When we meet, how often do we just clear the decks and have people just time to connect with each other? And that's a fight, right, in the busy schools that we lead these days. So it's about intentionality. It's like, if you think about a sieve, right, if you're pouring sand into that sieve, it's just going to all leak through, right? And so that's kind of like culture, right? It leaks, right? And so we can't just rely on the Christmas party once a year and then tick the box and think, okay, great, everyone's loving each other now and we've built a great culture. No, it's the small little things every single day that just keep that the sort of the tank full. And so it's how present we are as leaders, how we greet each other in the morning, how many people smile in the organization. That's a metric I always look at, right? How many of our people are connecting with each other? How many of our people are connecting with each other outside of school, with us forcing them to do that? All of those things for me tell me we're either on the right track or we're not.
I got to ask you something. You talked about the small things. What are some small things you guys are doing there to build rapport that you think could be of benefit to others?
So I think giving people a level of autonomy or agency within their school day, I think is important. So looking at, as I mentioned before, how we meet, how often we meet, how often are we expecting staff to stay late and do things after hours, right down to expectations for answering emails or responding after work hours, which we do not expect people to do, and being actually quite specific and intentional to communicate that, because otherwise people have an assumed expectation that this is what they have to do. But unless we're explicit to tell them, I do not want you checking your email after whatever time at night, and then that gives them license to take a breath. So it's trying to build in balance and just let people know that they aren't their job, right? They have a life. Their job is very important to them. And in nowadays, it does form aspects of our identity. But your life is so much more than that. And it's important that you prioritize those other things. So your small things, it's looking at our timing, looking at our scheduling, looking at when we meet, when we call people together, what we're doing after hours for people. If I have to take responsibility, how often am I getting around the school, connecting with people? How visible am I? How do I respond when staff come to me with real challenges, whether that's an HR challenge, whether it's a whatever challenge, a student challenge? How quickly am I responding to that, to take that pressure off them and put it on me really to help solve? So those are some small things that we look at as a leadership team. A lot about culture comes down to how available we are for our people as well. And if people generally feel that we have their backs, and I do believe we have that here at DAA, people do feel supported. And look, you can ask them, right? Do not take it from me. But the feedback I receive from our staff is that they feel heard and they feel supported. And I think those things are big steps towards building a positive culture.
Indeed. You said how available you as the leadership are to the staff. But how available are you to yourself? What are you doing to take care of you, Mike?
It's a great question. And I really appreciate you asking it, because I think among school leaders, that is something that we don't do well, right? We assume a lot of the pressure and take on that pressure because we care for our people, but sometimes to our own detriment. So I have 2 young kids, and so I'm forced to forget about work every evening when I play cricket in the garden or football in the garden, and that's always a wonderful break for me. I make sure that I enjoy training and exercise and participating in a few little competitions and things every now and then. And I make sure I do that with a group of my friends who are not in education, which is really nice and refreshing. So yeah, it's about that. It's about making time for family and prioritizing family time and getting away. Dubai and the UAE has so many great opportunities to just get away for a night or away for a weekend and do something fairly inexpensive. And that's just different and changes things up a bit. So I make an effort to do that. And look, I think we learn as we go, right? Some days, okay, we're pushing it a little bit too much and we can pull things back a little bit. And I think as long as we're willing to reflect constantly on that, then we'll do well. And as long as we can also be humble to put our hands up to say, you know what, I'm needing some help now, because I'm just feeling overwhelmed, then I think we do well. But if our egos get in the way and we think it's all about us, then it often doesn't end well.
Yeah, I like that. How old are your kids?
8 and 10.
Oh, they're really young. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And they're enjoying Dubai. Well, I would Dubai is great for kids, but how are they enjoying it?
It is. It's wonderful for kids. They're loving it, from the first day, and they come to DA as well. So they absolutely love it. And the opportunities they've had, the experiences they've had, it's just been amazing. So yeah, they're very happy. They enjoy it. So, and that helps, right? Because if they weren't happy or they weren't settled, as a parent, you would naturally question your decisions, right? Because right now it's not really about what we want. It's really about them and the school that we want them to be part of. But yeah, thankfully it's all going well and they're enjoying it.
Yeah. So we're coming to the tail end of the podcast, and I know you said you write and you also are big on culture, but I want you to look a little bit broader out on education and where we are right now. What are you excited about in the field? So I want you to think wide, not just your school.
So Lisa, I think, if we think about education, and it's not anything new. We all talk about this often, how education is typically a very slow or laggard when it comes to innovation, right? And we've been doing really a fairly similar approach to education for the last 100 years. That doesn't really evolve, although there's been pockets of innovation. So what excites me is with the evolution of AI, I think we are going to come to a crisis point within education, but I think this is going to result in something quite beautiful, where we truly can innovate to meet the needs of our students. We are still educating our kids through a very industrial age era approach. And the world's moved beyond that. But sadly, most schools haven't. Now, I get all the logistics around it, right? And I know that it's not easy as just flicking a switch. But I think we are going to be, within education, we're going to be confronted with some real realities with what AI will be able to present for us and open up for us, that we could harness to truly change what school can look like. That we can meet the needs of each individual student and each individual family in a way that we can't even comprehend right now. So I believe in the next few years that's coming, and there's going to be a real shakeup in education. I don't think it's going to be, it's not going to be completely different, like something we've never ever experienced. I think within the structure, there's going to be change, right? And so that excites me. And I think schools that have an appetite for that, who are excited about that possibility, will do very well. And why will we do well? Because we'll be able to give our kids what they need. If we're hesitant or resistant to that change, we'll just continue doing what we've always have done, right? So that I think is what excites me. I think more than anything, our humanity is going to be even more relevant in the future that we see, because there will be things. Now, I'm not in the camp that says AI is going to replace teachers, but I do believe there'll be a lot within education which AI can replace and can actually do better. But it cannot, at least at this stage, and hopefully never, but it cannot replace the humanity aspect. And that's the greatest thing we bring to the classroom, that connection piece with the students, with the families, that encouragement, that inspiration that a teacher can bring. And so I think that is going to become even more of a focus for us, as I think it should be, while, of course, we just utilize the incredible tools that are out there within AI. So that excites me. I am absolutely not an expert on AI by any means, but it is a field that I'm obviously learning a lot about, and I'm very interested in learning about, and seeing how it impacts education. And I'll be the first one at the table to learn and listen and see how we can really evolve schools and make them better for our kids.
Brilliant. I'm equally excited about that as well. I'm intrigued. I don't even know if I'm excited as much as I am intrigued. I'm very, very curious to see where this all goes, because I think we are indeed heading to an inflection point, and I would love to see what direction we take. We are quite good in education at digging our heels in, so let's see what happens. But Mike,
we've been doing it for 200 years. Yeah.
See what I mean? So I don't know, but I do know that something will shift, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what that will be.
Yeah.
Thank you for being on the podcast, Mike.
It's an absolute pleasure. I've really enjoyed it. Thanks, Lisa. And thanks for all the incredible work you're doing. You are a real voice within education, and I love seeing all your posts and just how encouraging you are for everyone in the field. So thank you.
Thank you so much.